Hinata 46's Kawata Hina's Photobook is different than your usual photo book, and that's because this is a semi-documentary going over the span of 365 days. Now let's see if that amount of photos actually helps and creates a story or deteriorates it by having too much. Now, the first thing I should mention is that this is actually 256 pages. A lot of the pages actually have single photos. Some of them have a couple. So I don't know exactly how many images total, but that's a lot of photos. And all of these photos were actually taken by the photographer Hosoi Kojiro, who actually shot one of my favorites, Nagahama Neru's photo book, who actually shot Sugai Yuka's graduation photo book, and who shot the trend-setting Sajihara Rino's Scandal. So let's go ahead and find out what this photo book holds for us. Now let's start off with the front cover. This actually gives us a good idea of what's going to be inside of the photo book. It's not going to be your usual one, it's going to be more of a gallery display. And almost like a Polaroid picture where there's a lot of white around, and then over here the photo. So I guess it's a mix of a gallery slash Polaroid. Then in the back we get a little bit more of a glimpse that it's going to be a little bit more of a casual photo book, nothing too serious or too fashion forward. And on the inside we get to see a little bit more of this film overlay to see all the different types of photos that we're going to expect inside of the photo book. Now, as always, we start off with the first photo because that sets the precedence to the rest. And this is actually the first photo. We get a toothbrushing picture, which a lot of people will be happy about. And this is very similar to something you'll see like in a contact sheet or in a Polaroid. And the colors in here are actually pretty nice. You can tell it's very filmic. A lot of greens in here. We got a little bit of blown out highlights back here, but as long as the face is nicely exposed, that's totally fine. And this kind of sets up the mood of like, all right, this is her just starting casual. And then we go into a little bit wider, and I'm showing this to show that this is another trend we'll see. We'll see a full spread, but not going all the way and kind of cutting off over here. And it also sets the mood of like, okay, so it's gonna be a lot of cute photos. So honestly, right off the bat, if you think she's cute and you wanna see more photos of her, just by that alone, you should pick up the photo book. And it's interesting because we get a couple of pages and then we move on to this one, which actually shows the title. So it's interesting seeing the transition over to this photo. Again, a very cute photo, a little bit more environmental, kind of showing like a regular old street, and then her holding flowers, kind of like, it kind of shows like a thank you for being part of this photo book at the end, but it's very beginning feeling in this case. And now with this, the next photo actually starts off the description down here. So a lot of these photos will have descriptions, so in that case it is a little bit more of a gallery. And these photos are very casual. There's nothing super artistic about some of them. Some of them, you know, of course it's a great photographer, so they're gonna be with a great eye. But some of them, like this, it's very snapshot. For example, this kind of makes it look like a selfie. I don't know if it actually is a selfie, but this is the type of mood we're going for right now. Of course, we come into these. These are a little bit more shallow depth of field and not snapshotty. And we get to see there's a little bit more thought into these, a little bit more wardrobe. Hair and make came over and did some work. So these are a little bit more setup, so we'll get a mix of setup plus casual. And I mean, just looking at the description of it being 365 days, it wasn't like every picture was taken on a different day. It's like over a year, you know, there's some photo shoots that happen here and there. So it's more of a collection of different photo shoots that happen with the same photographer. This photo right here, usually it'd be very hard with this over the top light. It's like noon, 1 p.m. over here. And as we see, a lot of the sun and the shadows mix in her face, but Kawata having such a strong presence and this being a little more goofy, a little bit more snapshotty, this makes it a little bit more okay because it kind of seems spur of the moment. Meanwhile, if this was a little bit more posed and a little bit more intentional, then this could be a little distracting in the face. And I mean, with Kawata, it's kind of easier to pull that off. Now, I'm just flipping through and there's a lot of pages. I mean, look how many I've gone through already. And I'm not even halfway there, honestly. It's like a lot of photos, and by this point, I'm like, okay, I'm getting the points. There was a couple in here that are, you know, a little bit more casual. Well, if you flip through, you know, there's a little bit of a different vibe. So there's a lot of mix in here, but I feel like it's a lot. I feel like you can like look at this through different days and then be able to finish it and take your time looking at them. In this photo, we actually changed the mood a little bit because if we compare the photo that's before this, it's actually a little bit different in mood. This kind of goes with the rest of the photo book where it's very light, very airy, a lot of bokeh in the background, letting her being very sharp. And we turn over to this, and it's a little more cooler in tone. You know, it's a little more contrasty. The shadows are very dark, the blacks are very dark, and we get like a little bit blurriness. So this like is complete stark contrast to everything we've seen before. So this is like a little bit of a breather, honestly. And then we go right over to warm. So it's a very stark contrast, going from more neutral light to dark and cold to a little bit more, I want to say warmer, but yet the lighting is a little bit more wrapped. So it's a little bit more cinematic, if you want to say that, just because there is lights, shadows everywhere. And then right back to light and neutral. So it's an interesting shift right there. And I think this is actually one of the few images that actually go full spread, other than like, you know, this white boundary box and showing like all throughout a photo. Usually there's like a white space over here, but I guess in this case they're like, okay, time to show this one fully. I kind of like these two photos right here. If we're going for the casual look, this is very casual. It's her, you know, coming from the konbini, just walking through on an overcast day. And then right here we get more of an environmental shot. I feel like these two really match, kind of having this as silhouette over here, just showing a little bit more of the scenery and a little bit more like a slice of life type of picture. Like this really sets off a slice of life vibe. This is actually a cool one too. This seems very intentional with the colors in here. So we get a lot of the greens around with the whites, with the socks, with the shoes, and some green over here with the jacket, but yet a little bit more of a brownish tone with what she's wearing. Over here the bentos are similar colors, so a lot of thought went into this photo, and this photo actually turned out pretty nice. I'm going through this photo book and it's been like 10 minutes and I'm still flipping through it, just wanting to call out certain images, and I feel like this is very like documentary-esque. It's a lot to go through, and I feel like you just have to like open it and look through it yourself. It's like if I go to a museum and then just highlight like 2 pictures. You have to go through the whole museum to see the whole vibe. This one's very cute. I just want to call that one out. Like nothing photography specific other than the side lighting over here, but I think that's a nice pose. No, Josh, you can't let out your inner fan. Critique it. Okay, so going through a lot more photos, we actually finish it off with this jumping shots going into the sunset. There's a lot. This one doesn't actually have a little caption or anything. This is just kind of like, all right, this is the send-off. Psych, there's actually more pictures. Over here, you get to one her on the jungle gym playground, and moving on to the actual final picture, which is a big, nice wide image. One of the few full page spreads that we see, and it's her kind of looking off into the future. And that ends it. Now that was a lot. A lot of pictures, 200 something pages, right? And I was actually wrong in the beginning. There was actually not a lot of 2 pictures for 1 page. It's a lot of like 1 picture, 1 page, or 1.5 pages for 1 picture. So there's a lot of images in here. It's overwhelming actually how much images there are. There's a lot of Mizuki images, more than I realized the first time that I actually looked through this. Like, I'm sure if someone counts it, it's probably closer to half than what I originally thought. But this photo book actually, I feel like, is a little bit too much. I can definitely see this more as a, I don't even know how to describe it. Like a shashinshu does make sense because it is a collection of images, but it's a little bit too much, I'll say. Having this many images in there, even though there's a good variety of them, is a little bit overwhelming and can start dulling the images as you keep on going. Because when I was already like before halfway, I was already like, okay, I've seen my fair share. You know, it's like around 100 pictures I've seen. The usual photo book is like 100, 130. So that's a lot already. And now I have, it's like 3 photo books mixed in one. And there's no super consistent theme in it. So it's a lot of like images to help out, looking through different memories, different photo shoots. So it is a lot. So I think it's more of a Hinasatsu type of vibe to it, or Nogisatsu if you collected that one before. And it's less of a storytelling photo book. It's more of a dioptic, is that what you call it, of Kawata Hina. And I mean, that's kind of the theme that it goes for in the very beginning. So with that in mind, if you expect it to be just a collection of images that happen throughout time and not a real A to B or A to B to C to D kind of storytelling, then I think if you have that in mind, then this is a pickup. But if you want something more of a photo book with more storytelling, I mean, there's a lot of good images in here, but with so many in there, it's kind of hard to pick and choose which ones are your favorites because there's just too much of them and there's different vibes going on. I'm also curious about like the logistics behind this photo book and just seeing like how exactly this was organized. Like, was it once a month and then they did different things on like one day, or was it like they just went like 10 days and just did different photo shoots, or they did like 5 and then like at the second half of the year they did 5 and then like 1 during her birthday. I'm interested to see the logistics behind it because actually it is a lot of images and there's a lot of variety, so it definitely wasn't shot in like 3 days or anything. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Anyways, yeah, so basically if you want to see the photo book, I definitely recommend picking this one up. I feel like looking at it online definitely won't do it justice, so pick it up and look for yourselves.